So are you one of those people who just pops their camera into automatic mode and clicks away not knowing if the photo is going to come out or not? Are you tired of being frustrated with your photographs and you really want to control them? Well, sit down, get yourself some popcorn, and let's get to it because we're going to learn all about manual settings. Hey friends, I'm Maven. Welcome to my channel where I get to teach you how to level up your photo game and create a business that you find so wonderful that everyone around you loves, and it will just be amazing. Welcome to video number 2 in the Photo Basics series. Whether you want to take your passion to a hobby or your hobby to a business, this series is going to give you a great foundation to take your photography wherever you want it to go. Today we're focusing on manual settings, which I know can be really scary, but I promise you by the time you're done with this video, you'll be like, gosh, that's so easy. I got this. So there are 3 settings that you need to know about, how to control and how to set in order to get the perfect photograph. So the first of those settings is your ISO, or ISO as some people will call. And that is the function that sets your overall lighting situation. When you walk into the room, you're going to assess your lighting situation and you're going to set your ISO. Now, out of all 3 settings, ISO is the one you're going to change the least. You're going to walk into wherever you're taking the photograph and you're going to assess the lighting situation. Now, whether it's a darker situation or a brighter situation is going to determine on what your ISO is. With your ISO, the lower the number, the less amount of light it's going to let in. The higher the number, the more amount of light it's going to let in to your camera. Usually, if you're shooting outside in midday, you're going to be looking at setting your ISO at 100. And if you're inside at night with no flash, you're probably going to be setting your ISO at 1600 or above. So the general rule with ISO is that the higher your ISO goes, the more grain is going to be in your photograph. Now this is because the sensor in your camera is struggling to find the details because it's in a lower light situation. It doesn't have as much information to work with. But I will say, technology has gotten pretty fantastic and your newer cameras are going to have a huge ISO capability. So really grain is going to be a non-issue for most of your lighting situations. The second thing you need to know about is your shutter speed. Now in your camera, there's a little mirror that flicks up and down every time you take a photograph. That creates this sound. That is your shutter. And depending on how fast or slow you have your shutter speed will determine how quickly that little mirror flicks up and down. So now this is going to be opposite of your ISO, where the higher your shutter speed is, the faster that shutter is going to be clicking, which means the less amount of light is going to come into your camera. Why do you need to know this? Well, shutter speed affects the motion of what you're capturing. So if you're shooting something with really fast motion that you want to stop and freeze, you're going to want to use a higher shutter speed. If you're in a lower light setting, you're going to want to bring your shutter speed down. Now, the lower the shutter speed, the harder it is to capture any motion at all, and that includes your own jiggling of the camera. So you may want to invest in a tripod and a remote trigger to help you capture some of those low light situations without any motion. If you're taking pictures and your photographs are coming out really weird and blurry and it's not the focus, you may want to look at your shutter speed because that's probably the culprit. And the third function in manual settings that you need to know about is aperture. Now, aperture is specific to the lens that you have on your camera. So there are going to be different levels of aperture depending on what lens you're using. So when you hear me talk about f-stop, that's what I'm referring to, is the aperture. So inside your lens, there's a little apparatus that opens and closes to let light in. Sounds like a theme that's running through here. Now with aperture, the lower the number, more light is let in. Higher number, less amount of light in. Shutter speed and aperture are similar in this respect. ISO is the opposite. Now with different lenses, you'll have different aperture starting points. It can be as low as 1.4, which is a really nice lens, guys. Just putting it out there. Pretty pricey too. To all the way up to 4. 3.5 and above lenses are going to be really, really good for outside. Anything below that is going to be really great for indoor low light situations. And lastly, aperture is going to affect your depth of field, which we'll get into in a later episode. But a basic concept of depth of field is what exactly is in focus and how much of it is in focus. Now, all of these work together to create the exposure that you want, to create the amount of motion that you want in a photograph, as well as the depth of field in a photograph. And we'll learn more about a lot of the artistic elements that you can do in the following videos. But knowing these 3 settings is going to allow you to be able to shoot in any situation. It's a little overwhelming at first. It may take a while for you to get used to it. But if you know your manual settings, you're going to feel so confident going into any situation to take a photograph. My suggestion is when you go into a photo situation, go in order. Start with your ISO, change your shutter speed, and then change your aperture. This will give you a system to go through, and eventually you're going to learn where things should be in every lighting situation. So my question for you is, what has been your biggest struggle in learning manual settings? Put it down in the comments below. If I can help in any way, I would love to. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget, as always, to hit that subscribe button. And I will see you next time. Okay, love you guys, bye!